Hello, and welcome to another episode of Raise the Bar, the Sky High and Fly Jump Lab podcast. I'm your host, Troy Haynes, and I'm here today on a beautiful Sunday in Southern California. And I am going to be talking with Mr. Abraham Vogelsang, who we've had on the podcast before. Abraham is a multi-event athlete, commonly known as a decathlete. He's from Norway, and we're going to talk with him again. It's been about 4 years. When I first saw Abraham, he was showing off one of his high jumps in one of his competitions where he jumped, I think it was 205, I want to say, to 6'8 3/4. And his knee drive was at least a foot above the bar. Obviously, super talented. I don't know where he finished in that under 20, but it was very well. And he is now over here in the States. And I saw his post recently, I believe, I want to say Iowa or Minnesota or somewhere like that, somewhere in the Big Ten-ish, definitely in the heart of the country and competing. So we're gonna catch up with Abraham in a second. But before we start, I want to just tell you a little bit about the affiliate. I am an affiliate of Brad Kearns. I want you to look into bradnutrition.com. There are some very useful link ups there. One of my favorite products of Brad's is his whey protein isolate. I use that all the time. It's a protein powder, very pure. It's made of the best ingredients. It's Wisconsin dairy cows, and you can use that as a protein supplement if you have trouble getting enough protein, if you don't like eating meat, for instance, which I don't have that problem. I eat a lot of red meat and turkey and eggs, but if you don't like to eat those things, you can supplement with whey protein isolate. It's not chalky or gritty. It mixes well in shakes, and it's got a lot of protein. And he also has a new electrolyte energy drink, sports energy drink, which I've also tried, and it's excellent. Then, if you would like to get a 10% discount, you can use my promo code. It's Sky High and Fly 10, and that's all small letters and then 10. That'll get you 10% off. And if you go to Amazon, you want to go that route, you can go Sky High Fly 10, and that's all caps with the 10 at the end, and you get the 10% there. That's at bradnutrition.com. And if you don't know anything about Brad, he's a former number 3 in the world ranked Ironman triathlete. He's in incredible shape. He still competes now in totally different events. He's a high jumper and sprinter at the masters level here at USATF, and also speed golfs. So anyway, that's my plug for Brad. And right now we're just waiting for Abraham to climb into the waiting room. It's 12:59. I told him 1 o'clock. So we should be ready to roll.
Hi, can you hear me?
There he is. Yes, sir. I'm
How
turning.
are you?
I'm good. How are you, Abraham?
Good, very good.
That's
Nice
good.
to nice to take the time to have a conversation with me.
I know, right? No, I appreciate having you. I've been if I had the resources, I would have like paid you and grabbed you and made you talk to me a while back. You
Mm.
are a busy and talented young man, and it's been a minute, right? How was it?
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah,
Maybe 4 years, something like that.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
So
Yeah, you were the under 20. I was telling the listeners here on Raise a Bar that Abraham Vogelsang here from Norway, that when I saw you, it was a high jump that you had posted on your Instagram, which is where I seem to see everybody. And your 6'8", monster 6'8" jump had a knee drive that was like a foot over the bar. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is 6'8 3/4, like 205. I'm like, this guy should be jumping like 7'8 3/4. So and just a quote unquote just a decathlete, right, as a high jumper. So, and that was then, and we had a great conversation back. And then I saw that you're now over here in the States. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah. It's I've taken the time to take my talent to the University of Iowa last year, and then I transferred to K State. I
Okay.
also, for a little bit, was at I know you're in California.
Hmm.
I visited Berkeley, and I
Nice.
think, are you familiar with Ted Johnson?
Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
coached. I coached Seth. Yeah. So you got to meet Seth.
Yes, Yeah, we talked a little bit about you when I had my visit there, and it was awesome. It was such a small world.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Seth's a
good guy.
really good young man, and doing the same thing you're doing now. He's doing the
Absolutely.
deck. Yeah, yeah. He might be a junior or senior this year already. It's been a while. What about now? What about you, Abe? Let's back up a little bit because I want to
Yeah,
give
of
everybody an
course.
idea about where you're from and how I said you're from Norway. Now, were you born in Norway? You're born and raised in Norway, right?
I was born and raised in Norway. I've been in Norway my whole life. I've been to the United States a couple times. My first time when I was 13, 14 years old to visit
Mhm.
family, West Coast, LA, Seattle, all that stuff. And
Right.
then back in 2023 when I took my first visits around the US. So it's good to be in the US, but I've always been in Norway, but always kind of like doing the long jump, high jump, the
Right.
jumping events have been my strength,
Yeah.
even though I'm a decathlete, and now trying to focus fully on the decathlon and the
Okay.
hectathlon. Yeah.
Just as a quick review, any other sports in your background, like soccer? What else is big in Norway?
Yeah, I did a lot of soccer. I did pretty much every sport. I did karate. I did floor hockey. I was a very active kid. I really enjoyed being active and
Mhm.
use my body. And when
Right.
I turned to like the under 18, under 20 categories, I wanted to focus more on the track and field.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies back home who I trained with had the world lead in decathlon, and he said I should do the decathlon, and that's kind of why and how I got into that. He's also like a
Right.
220 high jumper
Wow.
as a decathlete, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I remember you telling me a little bit about the club scene because
Yeah,
here in the U.S. As we're coming up, there have become more of a proliferation of clubs. When I look at the one sport that probably doesn't have a lot of that is football. I mean, you might be able to find it, but really for football, we've got, younger stuff and then they go into high school, they go into college. That's really regimented. It's set. If you want to be a pro football player, you're going to play high school, college, pro. If you're going to do basketball, basketball does have club teams, but then it's kind of the same mill. You still go high school, college, pro.
yeah,
Soccer is interesting because you do have the same thing, high school, college, pro, but then there's a lot of club teams. There's club
okay.
soccer, there's club volleyball. There's a lot of these sports where they're kept kind of by their clubs all year round, even if they are going to compete at the high school compete. And I'm always like, well, how do you do both? It's really, really busy. And then you were you're not the first, but you are the only one, but I think you're the first one who started teaching me a little bit about how track and field works over there where you're not really going the same way that we would here through the schools. You're doing the local, club scene like you did. So once I got that through, that really helped me with what, my worldview as far as that was going. But tell us a little bit now. You said under 18, under 20. When you competed under 18 and under 20, I'm assuming you were in the under 20s jumping 6, 8 and 3/4 at your decathlon. You did pretty well. What was your at that time your decathlon and where were you ranked over there in Europe, worldwide? How did it look?
I think I did pretty solid at that time. Unfortunately, it was during like just before COVID, so I didn't
Yeah.
really go to under 18, and I was able to go to under 20 in 2021 and 2022, but it was kind of COVID restricted.
Yeah.
I think when I went to under 20 Worlds in Colombia, Cali, there was no decathletes from the US, for instance.
Right.
And I think that is kind of reflecting upon what you talked about in terms of the clubs and stuff, and that some events isn't really, you don't really do them in high school.
Yeah.
And it really kind of determines, is based on who's your coach. Because
Hmm.
as far as decathlon, I don't think you can, it's not like, do you have under 20 nationals in decathlon in the
Yeah,
US
it's
or?
it's so funny that you asked that question, and you would think that the sky high and fly guy, I'm always championing like I have this great knowledge of track and field, and I've been called at sometimes kind of a too focused person. Like at the meet, I'm watching the high jumpers, right? So like
Right.
you could break the world record in something right around me, and they go later, "Hey, did you see that guy break the world record?" I'm like, "No, I was watching my kid jump." So I don't always pick up on everything. And I'm just saying the whole under 18, under 20, all that stuff, I did not know about that at all until
Yeah,
I
right.
was watching Instagram and started to see that. I'm like, what is U20? What is U18? I mean,
Right.
so I'm asking questions, but yeah, over here, I don't know that I really know that answer. I don't know how
No.
it works. I've gone both to USATF and AAU for the Junior Olympics during the summer over
Hmm.
here, which is very chaotically and poorly organized for my money,
Okay.
and poorly understood. There's two different versions, and then to confuse the matter, you have the Nike Nationals, you have the Reebok, you have those
Yeah.
sprinkled in, and it's a big confusing mess. And we're really lagging behind as usual. The other sports are way more
Right.
organized. The way to the promised land or nirvana or whatever you want to call it, as far as where you're going to go in your sport, is pretty well laid out everywhere else. And like you and I are saying, I don't know, under
Yeah.
20,
Right.
18 here in the state, I have no idea. I know that they're doing it now, but I
Yeah.
don't know how well organized it is, or how do you even find out about it? Because I'm pretty sure back when I was competing in high school, which was 1982, it's 40 something years ago, I don't remember that at all. And
Right.
Junior Olympics was a little rumor, which I did ignored because I played football. So every
Hmm.
year when I got done with track, I'd start practicing for my football team, and we would play all through the fall. So I didn't used to train through the fall either until I got to college. So
Right. Right.
that's how that rolls out.
Right. Yeah, it's just interesting how different country does it, and especially in the US, because US is a powerhouse. You see in the worlds they're getting close to like was it 16, 17 medals, gold medals or
Wow.
something
Yeah.
in Tokyo, and I was just really surprised going to my first junior worlds that there were no
Yeah.
decathletes there
Yeah.
because yeah.
Yeah. Well, Seth was one of the first, that I worked with who was openly, him and his dad were pretty much from, I think I started training him as a sophomore. So sophomore, junior, senior, they were already talking about the decathlon, and he had,
Right.
in his own way, had started learning how to do that. But there really weren't that many. There's here in California, they have one at the Winter Championships at Arcadia. They have another one at the Big Arcadia meet, which is in April. So it's like one in February, one in April, and
Hmm.
that's it. Like there's nothing else unless there's some kind of a thing that I don't know about. If they, I know they do it, the NC2As for the college kids, but in high school they just don't have it. It's not an event. They don't
Yeah.
compete at it. At
Hmm.
our at the state meet, you can
Hmm.
compete in four events.
Right.
So, and the decathlon isn't one of them, but if you did compete in the decathlon, I would think, of course, there's going to be some young studs like yourself out there that could do the decathlon as one event and then
Hmm.
probably come back and do three other ones and do really well and score
Right.
points for their team and whatnot. I mean, that'd be a heavy workload, but
Hmm.
you guys are
Right.
used to that stuff, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's a different animal for sure, though. It's more recent, but now with the new NC2A stuff that you're learning about and living through, all these restrictions they're putting on the rosters, right?
Right.
I think some of the coaches are starting to say, hey, you either need to be really, really good at one thing, at least. If you're a high jumper, you better be able to score at our conference meet when we bring you in. Or, a sprinter has a little bit more value. If you have a 100, a 200 guy that can run relay, now I got a guy for three events. If I'm going to pay you money and I also want you to perform on my team, then you're going to need to be, pretty good level to score. So I think the push is going to be for more athletes like yourself that are multi-talented. If you say, hey, I bring in this high-level decathlete, we can kind of use him as the spread, on the butter, on the bread, just spread him all over and cover all the spots that, maybe we don't have covered. So I see some push towards that. But it's the landscape has changed really drastically in the last couple of years with that, for sure.
Especially over the summer with the new you mentioned the roster cuts, the NIL stuff, and now
Mhm.
you know people are trying to win national championship, and there's different ways to go about that. And
Right, right.
what is the best? Are you a field heavy school? Are you a track heavy school? What is the
Yeah.
best combination?
Yeah. Well, you saw what Washington State cut all their
Right.
stuff. They just went distance or cross country, right? They
That
said,
that was outrageous. I was talking to
right?
the head coach the day before about like potentially having a phone call, and then I see on scrolling social media and I see the whole program is cut.
Yeah. I mean,
It's crazy.
well, I think the sad part about all that is the fact that, you don't hear about those same roster cuts for football and basketball, let's say.
Right.
I know a basketball team here in the US has probably 15 guys sitting on the bench during a game. There may be some other guys that are on the team that I would call like the guys you practice against every day kind of like the cannon fodder. There's the
Mhm.
same thing in football. Football has at
Right.
least 85 to 100 scholarships, and you go 6 or 7 deep at every position. Like if I go, hey, I lost my number one cornerback, I got 6 guys sitting right there going, okay, I know he's practiced. I know he knows how to play cornerback, so we can put him in, even if he's not as good as the guy that we just had in there.
Right.
But, that's a different animal. But you get to this quote unquote a smaller team like tracks are a big team. You got so many different events. If you want to go 3 deep in the traditional dual meet setting, that was something else. Now
Yeah.
nobody really does dual meets that much anymore. I don't think. I can't speak because I don't know what you guys are doing now. You were at Iowa, which is in the Big Ten, and now you're at K-State,
Right.
which is the Big 12, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But both high level and pretty competitive conferences. And I know Kansas State has a great legacy with the jump. So, yeah, it's a differing landscape. So they have NIL money, and I know an athlete out here that told me that he got a scholarship to Wyoming,
Okay.
and he goes, they're giving me $1,000 a month. And I was like, really? Like I went my whole college career, jumping at a decent height and everything, and jumped 210 in high school and came to UCLA. And I mean, nobody ever gave me any money. Nobody knows
Yeah. And
today.
UCLA was great at
What
that
are you,
time.
I mean,
That would be
six
they were paying a
eight.
lot of
I'm
money if
like,
it was today
yeah,
age.
this guy's jumping 6'8", and they're giving him $1,000 a month. I'm like, that's great for him.
Yeah.
The other part of me is like, where was my money? So,
Absolutely.
oh, it's a different landscape. But then again, we're talking about guys like Arch Manning. He's
Right.
making millions, right?
Yeah.
And not really playing that well, which is surprising.
Hmm.
After all the hype, they're going, can Arch Manning
Yeah.
really play?
And there's a lot of people on that are quarterbacks that gets paid a lot of money because you are the front page of the school. A lot of people tune in every Saturday to watch you play,
Yep.
and there's a
Yep.
lot of burden and a lot of prestige in your performance. So at the
Absolutely.
same
Yeah.
time, people have been paid in the NCAA before. It's only now recently track and
Right.
field kind of.
Yeah, well, you and I both know that. I think, anybody that doesn't know that is either, new to it or maybe a little naive,
Yeah.
because money has always pushed the needle. And really what generates everything? I mean, everything. I tell this to people all the time. Like, look, if you have a good enough product, you're going to get people to watch you on TV. And when you do that, the money's going to flow in from ad revenue. So that, what are the two number one sports worldwide, and especially here in the US, is football, and then college football is a close second, right?
Hmm.
Boom. And those guys direct attention. They've learned how to get attention all year round. 'Cause
Right.
as soon as the Super Bowl's over, within a couple weeks, they have, oh, we have free agent signing period.
Right.
And we have the combine. Everybody's into watching the combine now. Like, who are
Right.
they going to draft? And then they actually have the draft. And, there's a little dead period during the summer, and football goes, well, we'll let baseball have the spotlight for a little while and the basketball playoffs. But then we're back in camp, and everybody wants to know what's
Right.
in camp. So it's like, yeah, the track and field is really lacking those eyeballs. And I'm happy that you're in two competitive conferences. Like the Big Ten still really cares about winning national
Mhm.
championships, just like the
Right.
SEC, right? I would say SEC was probably first in track for a long time. I don't know how it
Absolutely.
played out last year. I was stunned when USC, my hated crosstown rival, that they won both the men's and the women's this year. I was like,
Yeah, they did great.
how did that happen? But I know Quincy's a great coach, and they do a good job there. And my own personal coach, Alan Hankel, has coached both at USC and UCLA. So
Right.
but yeah, I know the money for SEC. I would think if you were going to get money for track and field, I would think SEC and or Big Ten, because that's the same in football, it's the
Yeah.
same in basketball, right? It's the same everywhere else. So, well, tell us a little bit more. As you're going now, how many years of eligibility do you have left? When did you start? What do you
I think I have 3 years left actually,
got?
or
Hmm.
two after this year. Um, so hopefully I'll be able to, progress, only deal with minor injuries and be fortunate enough to progress every year. But I'm very fortunate where I'm at right now. I think the Big 12 is going to be competitive and hopefully, bringing the team to do well at nationals as well is going to be the end goal,
Right.
and battle for, titles.
So you're gonna
Yes,
have 2 more years at K-State, is that what you're saying? Two for sure.
probably. Yeah.
2 or 3. And then, so how old are you now, Abe?
I'm 22 right now.
22. Okay. And then, so is there there's no like window that you had to jump through as far as age to get here to the States? Like it sounds like we're missing a couple years. Like when I graduated from UCLA, I went 4 straight years right out of high school and I was 22 in 1986 and that was it. I was done. So
Right.
you got a couple years left. I know COVID comes in there too.
I think the landscape has changed pretty significant since you were in college and NCAA. I saw last year there was a athlete at one of the SEC schools that was a 29-year-old freshman.
Whoa.
So in terms of age, I think people don't really care that much anymore, and people are or teams are really just trying to win championships.
When you
Yeah.
start, they can bring you over as long as you haven't done anything else, right? Like come over here,
Right. I think
junior
the biggest
college or yeah.
issue, if you were pro before you came here,
Yeah.
but even that is also a little bit like I've seen
Yeah.
athletes that have been semi-pro at least or run some diamond leagues and
Right.
still been able to have 4 years of eligibility. So I think the age thing is going to be very it's going to be very complicated because I talked to some other schools in the SEC and they straight up told me they're not recruiting any high schoolers. They're
Right.
only recruiting international
Um,
people or people from the
JCs,
transfer portal because
transfer
they're
portal. Yeah.
trying to win championships and they're not
Yeah.
really in that developmental phase in terms of recruiting, which
Yeah.
is very unfortunate for a lot of people coming out of high school. It's
Yeah.
super competitive, especially in the US. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think what it's going to do over here is it's going to force these high school athletes that aren't quite there yet. Let's say you're a kid. I have a couple. One jumped 6'10" last year. Nate, if you're out there listening, Nate Baca for me jumped 6'10" as a junior, which is pretty good. He
yeah,
won
it is good.
IF. He went to state. He didn't do as well at the state meet, but it was a long season. Like I told him last year, we really need to thin out the number of meets we're jumping at so you don't run out of gas because the gauntlet to get through the state meet here in California is amazing because it's
Okay.
really about a 5 week process where they go from becoming league champ, then they go to CIF prelims, then they go to CIF finals, then they go to state the Masters meet, which is a qualifier for state, then they go to state prelims and then state finals. And I'm like, that's a lot of steps in a
Yeah, it's a lot of meats.
5 6 week period where you kind of need to be peak. Now, the first 2 weeks, you can kind of say, hey, let's just jump high enough to take first, second, or third, or whatever, and just go with that. But by the end, man, it's they're on fumes, But anyway, what was I talking about? I got sidetracked talking about Nate.
Yeah, in
Uh,
terms of high schoolers and
High
going into
schoolers
college, right?
going into college. Yeah, I mean, if you're a 6'6" kid, and that was kind of true back in the day, but just a few years ago, I know kids that were jumping 6'4" that would all of a sudden go to Cal State Bakersfield and they were giving them scholarship. I'm like,
Right.
well, I don't really want to go to beautiful Cal State Bakersfield, which is right in the middle of the state and it's really hot. But if you
Mhm.
needed a college education, they were willing to pay you with
Right.
that. But like if you're serious now, and you and I have that same experience because you're at a school, and we're at another school that we're like, say, hey, we want to not only be competitive, we want to win our conference. I think there's too many colleges out there that just say, oh, yeah, we have a track team, we have a coach, we have
Right. Right.
coaches for all the events, but really nobody's expecting you to do anything. It's just like, okay, what is your job? Well, we just coach our kids and they go compete.
Hmm.
Well, okay, job well done, you competed, right? But then there's somewhere an athlete like yourself expects high things, the program expects high things. And now it's like, how are we going to do that? And we're in that land, like you're saying, I don't have time to develop you. So I think these kids are going to go to junior colleges, they're going to go to the lower levels, Division 2, Division 2, 1A, whatever, there's all kinds of lower level, Division 3, Division NAIA, right? And they can go there for a couple years and learn. And sometimes you get a late bloomer. I saw this one
Yeah.
kid this year on Instagram. He jumped 6'6" in high school, and all of a sudden he popped like 7 feet and a half inch last year playing
Right.
for this real tiny school. Same thing happened. One year, this kid jumped. I think his name's Kirsten Wicks.
Hmm.
Had him on a podcast, nice young man. And we talked about his training. And he said, yeah, I just came in my own, and all of a sudden he jumped 7 feet and a half inch. And then, of course, almost as soon as the season's over, I see, thank you so much to, this university, but I'm leaving. I'm taking my talents
Hmm.
here because somebody's going to pay me, and I'm just like, hey, that's the system the way it's set up. It may be a little bit, in some ways, I think, too easy for people to bounce, but at the same time, no, whatever the rules are set up, that enables you to someone else to go, hey, I got a bigger paycheck, and you can go there, and that's free enterprise, right?
Yeah, right. And I think a
At its
lot
highest
of
level.
people are sleeping a little bit on the JUCO route or the NIA route because I think you can have a couple of years there and still be eligible for D1 NCAA. And I
Right.
saw like
Doesn't
in the
cost you any years.
right, and I think even in D2 there was like one school, I don't know which school it was, Grand something. They were like sweeping the podium and everybody jumped
Grand Valley
260,
State.
220. Right.
Grand Valley State. 1, 2, 3, 6.
Right. And it's like that's way better than some college, like most D1 college high
Oh,
school.
by far. They
Or high
had
school.
three of those guys went to the trials in
Right.
2023.
So it just gotta you gotta just do your research in terms of which school is actually gonna perform because even though you're D1 doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have a crazy jump in terms of
Yeah.
performance, right?
Oh, now you're preaching to the choir, man. I've been saying that for years. I'm like, I'll tell these kids, I go, look, you can go to a major school and they can say everything you want. We got this great campus, we'll get you in, we'll pay you this and that and the other thing, and we're gonna and then when you get there, they go, yeah, the guy that's working with the high jumpers used to be a shot putter.
Yeah, right.
Okay, wait,
Right.
what?
Yeah, yeah.
What exactly now? Being a little bit around this game a little bit longer and having gone through what I did at UCLA when I really didn't have a jump coach for the first 2 years. I had, two very experienced high jumpers that were working with me, and they were both excellent. Dell Davis jumped 7.7 in 1982 and was second at the NC2As. And then Lee Balkin still holds the California State high school record at 7.3. So they were good jumpers and they helped me a lot. But we didn't have a jump coach who said, here's how we're going to do our
Right.
pre-wise training. Here's what you're going to do drill wise. I want to see you work on these techniques,
And
none.
that's not an isolated experience either. That's a lot of D1 schools, a lot of
Sure.
big, like I talked to some Ivy League schools and they said the assistant coach had a like, what was it, certified pizza baker, had nothing to do with jump. And it's like, you would think that prestigious school like that would like,
Yeah. Well, at least
so
be
you
well
just
fed
got to do
after
your research.
workouts.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
but no, and I did, interestingly enough, I making fun of like a shot putter doing that, but in some ways, I would, first of all, you kind of start digging into whatever coach you're going to get, right? And you say, okay, so what are we going to do? Now, if a shot put guy just goes, hey, I don't have any ideas, and you're on your own, okay, that's one thing. Now, if the shot put guy that I was fortunate enough to learn some things from when I was at UCLA, and I was not a decathlete like yourself, but the great Art Venegas was there, as a throws coach. And I used to watch and listen because, again, I didn't have a guru coach of my own. So I listened to the pole vault guy, Coach
Mhm.
Anthony Kern, one of the best in the world, routinely kicks out great vaulters, high school, college, pro, whatever you want. And I used to listen to him, and he was a young coach at that time. I've
Mhm.
known him for
Right.
40 something years. And, he had just finished competing there. So I used to listen to Anthony and then I'd listen to Art because they were close by the high jump area. And I'd go there and watch their guys throwing the disc. I'd watch them doing the shot. And I saw how fast and explosive these huge athletes were. And
Yeah.
it was like, how are you guys moving that fast? And he'd be like, dude, when you're squatting 750 pounds or 800 pounds,
Mhm.
you're going to move surprisingly fast, especially if you only weigh 250. If you can
Right.
move three times your body weight, it's going to move pretty fast. And I started learning about power and explosiveness and stuff like that. So I might actually see a high, if a pole vault or a shot put guy, came up and said, hey, I got these ideas for your explosive training, I would kind of
Mhm.
prick up my ears a little bit, but realistically, you would like somebody that has done your event and
Absolutely.
done
That
it
is
at a
definitely key.
decently good level, or so yeah, that's the trade secret, like you said. And so you end up at this great place, great training facilities, even, and no vision.
Right. And I think that is why I was lucky on my first visit to visit some schools, not during football weekends, but like
Yeah,
regular Monday, regular Wednesday, whatever, and see how they actually were working at practice. And I enjoyed that. Obviously, being international, see a football game for the first time was exciting, but in
right.
terms of longevity and see yourself being at that institution or whatever, being there able to visit on a normal day with not really anything extraordinary is going on and see how your day to day will look like, it was kind of the pushover for me or made me make my decision because that's it's not
Yeah.
going to be a football game every weekend or every
Right.
day. It's going to be
Mhm.
boring. It's going to be how the coach communicate to each other and how they able to say what they're trying to teach you as well. It's going to be
Right.
important or the relationship.
So let's get down to brass tacks now. I've had the privilege of working with a few multi-eventers, and
Right. Right.
when I started working with the multis at Vanguard University, it's my fifth year there,
Hmm.
and so I'll work with them in the jumps and pole vault a little bit.
Yep.
I have some super general knowledge about other things I might be able to help with, and at that particular level, but most parts they're going to keep me in my zone, which is the jumps and the vault. So
Yep.
once I started working with them, and I don't know if this is a completely, a trait that's just for the multis, but what I found were these athletes that were incredibly motivated, incredibly scheduled. Like
Mm.
these people would just come up and they go, okay, look, you're here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? And I'm like, yeah. And they go, okay. On Tuesdays, I'm going to come see you at 3:45, and I'm going to give you about 25 minutes, and you're going to teach me how to high jump better. Okay. You're free to do whatever you like in that time period, but then I'm going to leave and I'm going to go throw the javelin. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. Well, now that we know what we're doing, I'll see if I can, fit something into my schedule for you at that time. But they were just, man, there's just so many things. And I think you being at a high level now, how is that change? Like, let's say from what you were doing in Norway as
Yeah.
under, 18 and 20, and now you're over here. How has your training changed, if at all?
It changed a lot to be honest. I think the biggest difference is combining the academics with the training. It's not really about like training hard and stuff, but finding a balance. Because, for instance, this semester I'm taking 7 classes and I'm have to work on 10 events.
Wow.
So I can't be like making sure my shopper is perfect on Monday and then go all out on a 1500 workout the day after. I got to make sure that I'm still gonna be able to finish all my assignments as well.
Hmm.
So a lot of technical work, especially the first months of fall, because when you're trying to wire things up, when competition starts, you're gonna have that energy. But now, when it's so far ahead and being able to work on it, positioning, especially in the high jump now, it's the first time really doing high jump drills. We're doing like those cone circles when you work running a circle and position
Uh-huh.
yourself, and that is like I never really worked on that. Usually, I would just do 2 steps, 4 steps, and then full approach, and then just
Right.
jump.
Yep.
So, giving a little bit more time to think about why you're trying to be in the position you're trying to be in, and being intentional is going to be probably what I like about this program, but also what I think is going to be the most important in terms of what you're trying to achieve because you can't only train harder every day. That didn't
Yeah.
work for me, and I don't think that it's going to be really beneficial in the long run. I think you have to set some technical goals first in order to make sure that when you're in the power position, you're able to execute and
Hmm.
get the distance you want to have.
Well, when I think about that, first of all, you mentioned something I found interesting because I haven't heard yet anybody, females running the 800 at the end of the HEP or guys running the 1500 at the end of the deck. Like, I've never heard of anybody even training for it. Like, it always sounds to me
Yeah,
like they just do everything else and then they go, okay, I'm gonna have to run this event because we're gonna have to do it. It's the 10th event, but
it
I'm
is.
gonna gut it out. I always hear that. I'm gonna gut out my 1600 at the end, and you're like, really? Like, how do you just do that? But it's like, it's so unlike all the other events. Like, how do you
It
mix in
is.
training for that with all the other stuff, which is all shorter, more explosive?
Right, and like mine are 10 events, it's explosive based, and then you have the 1500 to kind of rack it up. But I
Right.
think I think just for me, it's gonna be getting used to running for 4 or 5 minutes, hopefully closer to 45 minutes in the 1500, and that's gonna be able to, or that's gonna what I'm working on is being able to be in
Yep.
that uncomfortable or discomfort for that long. That's gonna be like I usually warm up, do 1, 2 laps around the track, and that's that was previously the most running stuff I did. I would do a workout that
Right.
would maybe last 20 minutes, but it would be like 200 meters or like 250 maybe. Now we're working on a little longer distances, which is kind of similar to the
Yeah.
1500. So when you eventually go up to that 1500, it doesn't seem that foreign
Right.
because every other event is like, yeah, 60 meters, 100 meters, high jump
Yeah.
run up, long jump run up, which is like barely 30 minutes, 30, 40 meters.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so
that's the weird
yeah,
thing is the energy systems, right? Like the one thing I
right,
know, having taken, I got a master's degree in exercise science. I've done some studies on, metabolism and
right,
food sources that you use, right? So creatine phosphate, and you burn, you're burning ATP for however short the burst.
right,
And then, if you need more, you're going to burn sugar first, and then you're going to burn protein. If you're running really fast, you run out of sugar. And then, if you're going slow enough over distance and you've got at least 20 minutes, you can start burning fat, So it's like,
right.
you start thinking about that. You go, okay, where does all this stuff fit? And you realize, okay,
Yeah.
we're way over here on this non-fat side of energy production, and so you
Mhm.
know how to train that. And then I think, but I still say speed dominates everything. So I'm
Yes.
so interested to hear about this because I mean the world record in the marathon, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's right around 2 hours or it's under 2 hours
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
averages out to like 450 every
It's
mile for 26 miles.
it's outrageous.
That's and okay, so let's divide 450 by four. We're talking about running, less than a minute 30, a minute 20
Right.
around for however many laps that would
Yeah.
be, 26 miles. I mean, that's fast. So
It
I'm
is.
it's still speed, overall, right? So
Yeah.
just how do you train speed endurance, I guess, for that one? But it
Yeah.
does seem like you got to put it on the back burner a little bit just because everything else, like you said, short approach. I mean, you do have
Yeah.
to run a 400 also, right?
You do have to run the 400 as well, but yeah, it's still not really the same system. But I usually feel like the good 400-meter guys would also be good 1500-meter guys. But
Right.
even though it's not completely the same system, but still you got to be a strong runner, and I think that is like what's so convenient of being in the States is like in Norway you have 3, 4 decathletes in the whole country, which is pretty widespread, everybody's all over. But in the US you can kind of urbanize that in terms of you got all the decathletes in Kansas, where am I right now,
Right.
in Kansas State or Kansas University, or you got all decathletes in whatever state, which is central, so you can work on that. And what is good about each decathlete is we got different strengths.
Hmm.
So some guys will be more speed based, some guys will be more jump based, like myself. Some guys will be good throwers, and just being able to work together, and especially for me that's doing less good on the running stuff, that being able to have somebody to run with and kind of having being in the right mindset is going to be important.
Right. Just this may seem disconnected, but I was listening when you said this. Yeah, you're taking 7 classes right now.
I do take a lot of classes this semester because I want to really, like, my first year last year I did a lot of classes in the spring. So how it works in when you during the fall is that you usually travel in the spring, and it can be pretty hectic because at my previous school we travel on Thursdays, maybe Fridays. So you will have competition. If you do deck, you would even travel. You'll compete Wednesday, Thursday sometimes. So
Right.
your whole week is getting getting kind of
Right.
messed up with lectures and stuff like that, and then you kind of after meet, and you're not really trying to focus. You're trying to see where you're at T first, or where
Right.
you're at the NCAA rankings, and not really focusing on academics. So I'm trying to really load this semester up, and then hopefully take close to four or five classes next semester.
So, yeah, it may be different too because California, we did the quarter system when I was at UCLA. So
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
3 classes minimum, four, I think five would be max. I mean, you had to get special permission if you went to five, but four in the quarter system is really busy because it's only 10 weeks and then
Right.
finals, right? But so that aside, just the sheer volume of what you're trying to learn and all that, I'm wondering, and were you like on a special cram? Is this like get it all done in 2 years or,
Nah, not really. I have a lot of classes that are not like being international, have a lot of you have some extra classes you have to take some English, and then you have to take those electives, which is
Yeah.
sometimes the electives are even more intense than your actual major. So
Mhm.
it's just it's just how this semester is going to be, and hopefully, maybe do some summer classes next year and maybe be able to spread it out a little bit more. But I think
Okay.
it's kind of a lot now since it's a new school, new
Right.
place, new institution, but it's not that bad as it seems or
What are you majoring in?
psychology and HR hopefully. So it's a lot of psychology classes right now. I did a lot of business classes last semester, but I
Hmm.
enjoy it.
Okay. Was I got like millions of questions pop up for you. So you're like, what was the one? Oh, you were mentioning, and this is the part that I find interesting, knowing that there's 10 events and there's more you could do, right? I mean, if they said, hey, our number one triple jumper broke his leg, and you go, we need a guy at this meet, blah, blah, blah. Could you do it? I'm sure you go, I don't know. Have you ever done the triple before? But you're strong enough, you're fast enough. You've probably done some triple jump bounding drills. It depends on the long jump or the high jump coach. Because I know my high jump coach also did long and triple, and there were times we were doing repeat bounds and triple. I'm like, what am I doing this for? He's like, just do it.
Right.
Like, okay. I've never done the triple jump ever in my
Yeah,
life.
me neither
I've done a
actually.
lot of the drills, so I'm like, okay, I could have done it but I didn't really like it. So, but other than that, if it was one of the 10, let's say,
Yeah,
and you're just mentioning this travel and competition. You're not doing the decathlon every time, right?
that is correct. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
correct. I would probably in the ideal world, I would only do three, 2, 3 reps each, like indoor and outdoor, which would be one to qualify for a conference or a national meet. Ideally, like last semester, I was able to score in long jump, for instance, in conference.
Hmm.
So I wasn't like completely out of it, and then focus on nationals. But if that really depends on the institution. Some head coaches want you to do three and do conference deck and then do a national deck like 2, 3 weeks after.
Right.
Some really wants you to get that national mark and fight for a title. So it really depends on the institution you're in and where the school stands in terms of points, because
Hmm.
where you place in conference will determine how much money and stuff like that. So it's not only based on how you feel, but being able to communicate what you're able or capable to do is
Hmm.
going to be important.
Um, so help me out with this too. Like for you to qualify for your conference meet and
Right.
then you go to NC2As,
Yeah.
do you actually have to have had done at least one decathlon, or do they just take your results from all the events in those events and say, this is what your score would be, so now you can do it?
That would be so much easier if it was only like you could do single events for the whole preseason and then
Yeah.
that. But unfortunately, you have to do a HEP or you have to do a deck. So you're trying to get that like on as early as you can in the season, because if you do too close to conference, then it will do
Yeah. Kill
almost
you.
like three
Wipe you
decks
out.
in less than a month. So
Right.
you want to space it out a little bit, but you don't also want to. It really depends where how your conference meets. If you're very comfortable, if you're indoors, for instance, pole vault is a deal breaker for most decathletes because it's so technical.
Right.
So if you were going to Oregon, for instance, for your conference meet, you would probably would want to do a decathlon earlier, so you don't have to rely on the rain or the wind.
Right.
But if it's a heptathlon, like you could look, if you're confident in your ability as a deck or a hep, you could do it after conference. You can open up at conference. So you
Right.
only train through the preseason and then you only have 2 decks or 2 heps.
Right.
But it really depends on how much stress you want to put yourself through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are the events that don't get included when you're doing the HEP indoors?
So you would do the 60 meter, the long jump, the shot put, and the high jump. And then the day two would be 60-meter hurdles, pole vault, and then 1,000.
Right. So you're losing the 1600, you're losing
The disc and the
400.
jab
Yeah, and running around in circles is
and
impossible.
the
With small
400.
indoor
Yeah.
tracks, right?
Right, right.
You're losing, you can only run 60s, right? So yeah, it's a different animal.
It's way easier. And I feel like a lot of very talented, like you would see some football players do some crazy scores in a half because it's so explosive,
Right.
as we talked about earlier, because a lot of football kids are very talented. And I
Yeah.
think that's also a little bit unfortunate because a lot of very talented track and field prodigies will go and switch to football,
Right.
even though they would do very well in track.
Well, you're the goal, right? The what do you call it? The prize, the wreath at the end that they used to give the athletes in Greek, Olympics. It used to be just the wreath, right? And
Yeah,
everybody, oh my gosh, you were one of those guys. And then now it's like fame and glory and your gold and whatever. But it's like, yeah, that's whole was it? My mind just blanked out. You're you're getting there through what was it? I know what it was. So I'm gonna have to edit this out later because my brain shut off. The football players are looking at the higher prize, like you said. I think, like you said, there are so many athletes here in the US that we would only just wonder at, right? And go, this guy would have been a great whatever. I mean, everybody says about LeBron James. They go, LeBron James, amazing basketball player. What if he'd have played football? What if he'd have been a 6'8" tight end in football?
right.
That guy would have been really hard to deal with.
Absolutely.
So you see some guys in track and field that could go play football, and then you see some guys that are playing basketball. Some of these guys can do everything. One of the great
Yeah.
athletes over here in the States when I was a kid, and I want to say, I think he just passed away recently. I hope not. Dave Winfield, if you're still alive, forgive me. But Dave Winfield was an outfielder for the Padres, and then he played for the Yankees. And this guy was like 6'6", 230, jacked, could kill the ball, run like a deer.
Right.
He played football, basketball, but he did everything in high school. And then,
Right.
I'm sure he got, was recruited for all of them, and he picked
Yeah.
baseball probably wisely because these guys can have really long careers in baseball, whereas in football season,
Right.
it's 3 years and somebody blows out your knee and you're done. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a lot of great athletes out there who haven't done track and field. Like there's one guy they call it is a David Skywalker Thompson
Hmm.
who was, I want to say, am I thinking about the same guy? Skywalker? There's one guy I know. Oh no, that's one. But there's another guy that played for the Cavaliers. His son plays for the Lakers, Larry Nance Jr.
Oh,
Larry
wow.
Nance played for the Cavaliers, and I believe was 6'10" and was like, not a big 6'10", was like kind of wiry. And to this day, I think he had like a 48-inch vertical. And I'm like, you give me a guy
Oh,
that's
really? Yeah.
10 and who can run and dunk from past the free throw line,
Yeah.
and let me see if I can turn him into a high jumper, right?
All
So,
right.
there's all kinds of guys out there that you're never going to know because they
Right.
picked, a higher possible money sport. It doesn't mean they were going to make it there, but when they did, they were rewarded with, big contracts or whatever. So
Yeah.
we're always losing that battle, I think, for, track and field. Track and field has had a great football, like you said. I don't know if you've studied this being from Norway, but we've had, great football players. Bo Jackson, Roger Craig played tailback for the 49ers, was a hurdler at Nebraska.
Oh, really? Wow.
Bo Jackson was a sprinter, 100-meter guy, and others like, they got these famous commercials over here. Bo can do anything. And literally, there's legendary stories of him, as a 25-foot long jumper in college that wouldn't even bother to practice, and was
Right.
super fast and could do anything,
Right.
and that list, there's quite a few guys. Russ Francis was a tight end for the 49ers and the Patriots, won a world championship with the 49ers and was a javelin thrower in
Right.
college at Oregon. So there's like a widespread range of guys that did track and field back in the day, but that number is dwindling,
Yeah.
quickly, like you said, for all those other crazy reasons.
So
Um,
how is that in terms of high school? Is it normal to do football and track like
it's
through
not a
the high
bad
school
double.
system, or
but
how is that?
I
How
think
big is the
football.
track in the US?
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Let you finish your thought. The foot I jumped on it because I was like almost like I was waiting for that pitch. The football to track um double is pretty nice because the
Yeah.
football is during the fall. So you
Right.
run all the way and you play in the fall and then early winter and you do whatever you're doing. High school is usually done around Thanksgiving. You may get a longer run if you're going to state now and all that, but it's still going to be done somewhere in December. In the pros, it seems like you're halfway through the season. They're still continuing to go December, January. Super Bowl's now been pushed all the way to February, but still,
Mhm.
February is still in the early indoor, you know,
Right.
right? So if you were a track guy doing football, and you finished up your football season, you could transition into, you know, track pretty easily. When I was in high school, I broke my hand my senior year playing football. I did some other things, but by the time I was healed up and everything, I still was in plenty of time to get ready to jump in track and field.
Right.
I remember competing with a cast on my arm, jumping at the Sunkissed Invitational Indoor, and just I was terrible. I was out of shape and I had a broken hand, but I was like,
Right.
they invited me, so I'm going to go. But it was like, that was early in the season, and by the end of the season, everything was fine. So that's an easy transition there. For
Right.
jumpers, I think basketball is not bad either because basketball players train exactly the way I would train my high jumpers. I mean, if you watch
Okay.
anybody at basketball practice, what are they doing? They're sprinting up and down the court. There are times when the coach goes, "Hey, you're going back and forth like maybe 2 minutes, but then timeout. We talk through a couple things, so you get a little rest, and then you go again." And if you look at any burst of energy during a play, it might be 3 or 4 steps and dunking on somebody. Like, well, that's
Mhm.
plyometrics. You've got
Mhm.
sprinting. You've got speed endurance because I'm changing directions. I'm stopping. So I know guys. I had a friend of mine in high school, Dave Wicker, if you're out there listening. He was a 6'10" jumper the year before I was. And,
Mhm.
and shout out to my old coach who's passed away, the great Carl Halstead. He had at Millikan High School in Long Beach in California. He had 5 years in a row of guys jump 6'8" or better. Now,
Right.
the last four of those were all 6'10", starting with Wicker, then myself, then John Barefoot, and then Mr. Lewis.
Mhm.
And then Wicker also jumped 6'10" as a junior, but the bar slipped down. One of the standards slipped down and the bar stayed on and they didn't count it. So I
Oh,
would
really?
say there was actually 5 years of 6'10" or better, right? But Dave came right out of basketball his senior year and they made a nice run in the playoffs. So they played like 2 or 3 extra weeks. And then he came out to track after jumping 6'10" right at the end of his junior year. I mean, he came out on fire. That year, he jumped 6'10" like 3 times in the first 4 or 5 weeks. He was in shape and he was sharp,
Right.
and like, what would you do at the end of basketball practice? They run
Mhm.
lines, short, speed, endurance. Like, you run to half court and back, you run to full court and back, and then you stand there, hyperventilate for 5 seconds,
Right.
do it again. Perfect. I mean, he was in great shape. So that goes together pretty well, so
Right.
both basketball and football, I think, can double pretty well, unless, of course, I'm on a club team, and as soon as my high school season's over, of course, they want you back in because you're paying cash. Your parents are paying cash for you so that you can be the best club guy and have a better, whatever's coming at the end of the rainbow. I don't know how that always works and if it works, but that whole idea is being ingrained now. I mean, it's
Sure.
hard to get out of that because most of these sports want you for the whole year. They don't want to let you go somewhere else because they're losing money when you're not.
Ah, yeah, right. But so how is the high school in terms of, are you representing the high school or are you representing the club then if you do track?
See, and that's a great question. You don't really represent the club hardly ever, unless it's like at a track meet if you're on a club. I mean, there are club volleyball games, there are club soccer. They just play. They go play other club teams. But as far as the high school is just going merrily along its way, with or without the club. If you want to double dip, you can. But I always warn athletes, I go, if you're going to do the club and the high school,
Mm.
you got to sleep, you got to go to school, you got to eat,
Right.
you got other things you got to do. How are you going to do both? And it's going to
Right.
take a toll on you physically, so when you get to the big
Absolutely.
meets at the end of the season, whatever it is, soccer, volleyball, especially volleyball, the loading is insane. All they do is
Okay.
jump around the whole practice. And if you
Right.
watch basketball, every once in a while, 3 or 4 guys jump because they're trying to get a rebound. Somebody runs down and jumps over and tomahawks some guy. But other times, a guy pulls up for maybe his jumper and the other guy tries to block it. That's two guys that jumped, but everybody else just ran around.
Yeah.
Volleyball, they're jumping all over the place,
Right.
multiple possessions, set, spike, jump, boom, return, do it again. Like, oh my
Mm.
gosh. And you watch those guys practice, it's the same thing. They do it for 3 hours straight. I'm like,
Yeah.
how can you practice 2 or 3 days a week and then have games and then expect,
Mhm.
you get these coaches go, you guys are all flat today. I'm like, yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, that sounds a lot. But how
You're paying.
competitive is the state of California though in terms of like, I see some crazy times in Texas, Florida, Georgia. How is it coming out of high school in California and like,
It's pretty
getting promoted?
competitive. You're naming some of the hotbed states, right? There's Louisiana,
Right.
Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, I would say for sure still, Alabama, Florida. Florida's a hotbed of
Hmm.
talent. California is very good. You've got every year. The only problem with California now, and I can't relate to the other states because I don't know for sure.
Hmm.
California has a 2-day state meet. And in that
Okay.
2-day state meet, you got to qualify on Friday night and come back on Saturday. And I'm
Oh,
here to
okay.
tell you that was hard because there was not one time in my whole high school experience of 3 years that we ever did that. If we
Right.
had a dual meet on Thursday, we might have a meet on the weekend on a Saturday. So that was one
Hmm.
day of recovery. And some weeks you would just have your dual meet. You'd come back the very next week for another meet. So you had a week off technically, right? You might jump and
Right.
whatever, but you didn't have multiple meets and we never had back to backs. So
Right.
at my
Mm.
state finals, and this is 1982, we had 13 guys jump 203, 6'8".
Yeah.
13 guys jumped 6'8", and they said, we're cutting to 12. And then when they got to 13 of the 6'8", they said, okay, all you guys come back tomorrow. They weren't going to make us jump another height. So,
Hmm.
13 guys. I came back the next day, Abe, and I was shocked. I didn't have anything left, because
Yeah. Right.
I didn't recover that quickly. I needed at least one day, not
Yeah.
enough,
That's
and I
yeah.
didn't know about ice baths. I didn't know about any of that stuff. I'm sitting in a hotel room
Okay.
in Sacramento, and I've never traveled ever in my life in high school. And I'm just sitting there going, what do I do? I'm watching TV, and I'm like, man, I'm tired. And then the Sacramento closes at 8 o'clock. So we got done jumping at like 8:30. There was nowhere to even get food. It was crazy.
Right. Right.
So I'm like sitting around, I'm hungry, I'm tired, and I'm not sitting in an ice bath. And I came back the next day and I was crap. I mean, I couldn't get off the ground. So I'm like, have a little bit of wisdom and spread it out. So I don't know, particularly, but yeah, there's tons of talent at all
It is a lot of time.
those states in particular. And people forget in the United States, there's well over 250 million people. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of people over here. So, even if they're not doing football and or basketball and or volleyball or soccer, which are probably the four most prevalent, then
Hmm.
there's still enough kids left over to be doing track and to be pretty high level,
Yeah.
especially if they've got private coaching or whatnot.
Yeah.
So how long do you see yourself competing?
Are you thinking about in college or?
Yeah, college and pro, and what are you looking for career wise?
Right now I'm focusing a lot on the college aspect. It's going into my second year. It's a new experience. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed a lot. Obviously it would be fun to go pro, but I feel like it's such like ahead, long
Hmm.
time ahead that I'm not really focusing on that right now. I'm focusing on what I can do right now to get better. And
Right.
if I'm in a position or have the opportunity to go pro, why wouldn't I? But I think the way it works out in college right now is a huge. It helps a lot in terms of what you have access to and the facilities and the
Right.
coaching. So trying to make sure that you learn a lot about lifting and training now and then if you're able to kind of take advantage of that later.
Yeah. How did you do last year I know there's a different school. So you were at Iowa, which is Big Ten. Now,
Mhm.
how'd you do at Big Ten in the deck and outdoor?
So for I was lucky enough to sit out the conference and just do long jump and pole vault. So not
Mhm.
really the deck, but I scored in. I think I came eighth in the long jump, and so I skipped conference so I could prepare for
NCAA.
nationals,
Yeah.
which is going to be my goal. And I think I came sixth at nationals. I had probably the worst day one I could have had, but it's a learning curve. It's a new system. It's
Right.
usually in the biggest difference in terms of decks in and doing a multi in Europe compared to the US is it's a time in between the events. Like in the US, it's you get 30 seconds or 30 minutes after you finish a 60 or long jump or
Right.
shot put, while you have a little bit more time and in Europe, which is a little you got to adjust to that, and I think that's kind of why I struggle a little bit in my first like real meet, but that's something you just got to learn from, and I'm happy with that.
So the recovery time's shorter, you say over here?
It's 30 minutes, more or less. You might have a bigger break, but I felt like it was just one. one long go in at nationals, and then I also had like some issues with my foot and stuff like that. So then you're kind of all already on the back foot in terms
Mhm.
of not really recovering and trying to make it through. But I feel like I had a good conversation and was able to finish it, which was my goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your goals for this year since you're not setting way off goals because there's so
Right.
many variables, right? For this year, are you going to be looking to compete both at the HEP, right? Indoor nationals and then outdoor deck nationals? Are those the two biggest goals?
Yeah, compete at nationals in both indoor and outdoor would be would be an obvious goal. Hopefully I can do the HEP at conference. That would be really fun, especially in the new conference as well to see
Right.
the level is quite as competitive as the Big Ten. So
Right.
it's it's going to be trying to finish and trying to do well in the big meets. Really, trying to make sure that I'm not traveling as much as I did last semester.
Hmm.
Like last year, I did two decks in a week in order because that was kind of a nightmare because I went to Mount Sac in Orange County and then no hided, which is not what you're trying to do because then you're on the back foot because then you're trying to
Right.
do another meet to to qualify
Hmm.
for nationals, but you don't want it to be the conference meet because the conference meet for us was in Oregon and
Right.
the weather is usually pretty not reliable.
Right.
And then you're in a position where you do end up doing 17 events in a week, which is not
Yeah.
great. But luckily, I
Right.
was able to qualify. But it kind of put my whole spring on the back foot,
Did
and I
you
had to
you know
recover
how to
from
do in
that
the high jump or the pole
in a high jump actually, which was ridiculous. But it's yeah, it happens.
Right. So what's your career bests? For those of you that are listening out there, Abraham Vogelsang is a decathlete from Norway, and he's now we're here in the States competing for he was at Iowa and now he's at Kansas State. What is your personal best and what do you want to shoot for as far as points go in that event?
Yeah, so in the deck it was 7.872 or something, which is
Hmm.
really funny because the team that I have now has 7.882 or something. We pretty much have the same score.
Right.
So it's obviously going to try to beat him. And in high jump, I don't know what's the dream height. Like when you surpass 2 meters, it's pretty big. But once you surpass 8K, 8,000 points in deck,
Right.
I really feel like you can call yourself a decathlete, and that's really what I want to do. And also do the 6K in
Right.
indoors head. Those are like the
Okay.
two biggest milestones.
So then we're coming up on it. It's every time I think it's just, a step away, all of a sudden it's two steps closer. So within a few months, we're going to be in 2026, and that's only
Yeah,
two
right.
away from 2028, which is going to be, the Olympics here in Los
Right.
Angeles again, right? Is that something that hovers in your goal set?
That would be really convenient because I will be done with school in 28, and then hopefully that spring semester I can just work on qualifying and then travel to Los Angeles and do
Right,
Olympics. That would be ideal, but anything can happen. And I think my main goal this year is trying to break the school record and do 6K and do 8K,
right,
and then it's we're talking about a lot about college, but also in terms of world athletics and going pro, you need a lot of ranking points. So it's also going to not be based on if you're able to qualify, but if you have enough ranking points to put yourself in a position to qualify,
right,
right?
right.
So there's a lot of things going into going pro or
Yeah.
competing at senior championships. You have which I don't think about right now, but if I want to take it to the next level, I guess that's something really need to get into.
So you mentioned Mount Sac. Now this is just me planning ahead because I want to see you face to face. Are
Yeah.
you going to be at Mount Sac this next year?
I think we're planning to go to Mount Sac in 2026 as well. I know
Okay.
USC went there,
Yeah.
Arkansas went there, so hopefully I can go there. I know usually usually pretty good weather in California,
Yes.
so
Better
that
than
would be great.
Oregon.
Yeah, better in Oregon.
Because I'm a
So
Bruin. No offense to you Duck fans out there. You already know I hate you, but I have a lot of respect for Oregon and the track culture there. It's amazing.
yeah, it's
They treat
fantastic
us like
stadium facility.
princes.
Wow.
When I went there 3 years in a row, my freshman, sophomore, junior year at UCLA, we went up to Oregon, and had a dual meet against them. And it was the old stadium, which was wood, and it was always crappy weather. And they were out there by the thousands cheering and stomping their feet. It's an amazing atmosphere. And they were routinely stomped us until my junior year. We managed to beat them in the dual meet. But,
Nice.
an amazing place. But like you said, when you come down there, you come down to Mount Sac. Now, the old Mount Sac Stadium was nice. The
Mhm.
new track is amazing. And
It's fantastic.
it's
Yeah.
got Nike money flowing through there, which is amazing. I kept hearing that they might want to try to get the trials there. Instead of
Oh,
having
really?
trials at Eugene, which is where almost every big event is there now, right? They always have, is it both the indoor and the outdoor?
I
You've
think
seen
so.
the indoor nationals there too?
Oh, yeah. I don't know where it's going to be this year, but at least last year it was conference and nationals.
Yeah.
Outdoor was at Oregon.
Outdoors always there, yeah. And then they also had the US nationals, not just NC2As, but the whatever you want to,
Oh,
the
okay.
US
Yeah.
championships, right, were there. And then the trials have been there, but the 2028 is in LA. And there's no reason in my mind why they wouldn't have the trials back in the Coliseum. They
That would be awesome.
they have to. That's where all the history is. I mean,
Right.
yes, you've got the American, hook up there. You had Carl Lewis in 1984, both
Right. Oh,
trials and games.
that'd be awesome.
It's huge, right? So, yeah, but there was a rumor that since it was Nike money and the track was so nice there that they might try to do it in at Mount Sac. But I look at that place and I love it, and it's awesome. Great
Yeah.
track. The scoreboard is amazing, right? There's just tons of great things
It's
there.
huge.
But I don't know about the number of people that it would
Mhm.
hold. I don't think those stands, you and I have been there. I don't
Mhm.
think you can put more than, I mean, maybe 15,000 in there,
That
maybe.
might be the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Plus, the stadium is nice.
Yeah, the stadium's beautiful. Did you get to go down and look at the weight room and all the training facilities they have down there?
I did. It was nice. The locker rooms. Because what is Monza? Is that D1 or what kind of school is that?
That's a junior college, actually.
Yeah,
Funny
it's a
enough.
very nice junior college though.
Oh
It's
yeah.
probably the nicest one I've been to.
Well, the guy that was the head coach there was a guy that I was lucky enough to compete against in the Pac-10 at the time. Ron Kamaka was a high jumper at Arizona State, 222 like me, 223 maybe. I think he probably jumped a little higher than I did. I was fortunate enough to beat him the one time that I competed against him. And then after our competitive careers were over, he was unfortunately in a body surfing accident. He's a native of Hawaii, and he
Oh,
he broke his neck and was paralyzed from the
shit.
shoulders down. I think he could move his arms, but he was in a wheelchair. And he's just a great man and coach. Really. And when we lost him during COVID, so
Okay.
that was a bummer. But he was
Absolutely.
so proud of that place. They got it done, and he took me around for a tour. And I was just like, Ron, this place is amazing.
Yeah, I was blown away. It was
It's
so nice.
yeah, especially I mean, not just because it's quote unquote only a junior college, but yeah, just mind-blowingly. Well, hey, let's look forward to that, Abraham.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep bugging you. Do me the favor if you would. I'd love to do an analysis post with you with your high jump stuff just to show
absolutely.
what it is that you
Absolutely.
do well. If nothing else, just to my guys that I'm training because I'm a knee drive guy and I'm
Yeah.
this is a knee drive because I still have that video that I have of you doing that 6'8" jump where that knee of yours was like at 7'8". I was like, oh my gosh. And I'd love to do that and then stay in touch.
Yeah, of course.
Before we know it, Mount Sac's going to be here, right? So,
Right.
but hey, I want to thank you so much. I've been looking forward to getting you back on the show for a long time. And
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm
Thanks for
I'm
having me.
excited that you're over here, in the States, and I'll be pulling for you. I'm hoping the best, you shatter your PRs and you win the nationals and go on because,
Hopefully.
why not? You
Yeah,
know,
why not? Why
hey,
not?
all right. Well, hey, Abraham, you stay in touch. Best of luck, with your organizational skills with
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
seven classes.
That's gonna be challenging,
My
but I'll
brain
do
is
my best.
boggling just thinking about that. But stay healthy, get your
Yep.
rest, young man, eat lots of protein, all
I
the
will I'll
nice
try
things.
to.
All right, sir. It's been a
All right.
pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and I'll look for your posts on social media.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, I'll see you in
Thank you.
Mount Sac though later.
Yeah, let's do it.
All
All
right,
right.
see ya.
Thanks, Abe. Bye.
Bye.
So that was a young man that I'm just really, really fond of. very personable. You can see that he's just got the package. He's a great athlete, good looking kid. He's working hard over here in the States, honing his craft, and just young too, a young 24, I guess he said, but he's got 2 or 3 years left here at the college level. So, really excited to see what he can do. Personal best in 7,800 is nothing to sneeze at. And, if he took sixth at the Big Ten championships last year. I do believe the Big 12, no offense to the Big 12, is a little bit of a step down as far as the high level of the conference. So, maybe sixth place, might expect something a little higher there. You got to hear a little bit about Abraham's training, the different things that are involved, just a smidgen, because the decathlon is really, really difficult. For my money, my personal opinion is most decathletes are overtrained. Um, and that takes a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience to learn how to train for all those events without burning out, both mentally and physically. To stay injury free. You heard him saying he had some trouble with his foot last year. When you think about the volume of, I mean, I did one event. I did one event. In high school, I did two. I did a high jump and a little bit of pole vault. And basically, I would just pole vault at the meet. I don't remember doing a whole lot of practice. So, the somebody doing 10 events, even just a couple times, and at all the other events, like I said, you could do one, could do two, maybe. It sounds like he was asked to do long jump, and he can high jump. Obviously, I know he's jumped 6'8", which is pretty competitive at most leagues. And I don't understand if they. We used to do dual meets. I really don't think those exist anymore. So, but anyway, we're thankful to Abe for giving us an hour of his time here on Sunday. So until next time, we're going to sign off now. Again, don't forget to go to bradnutrition.com and check out the whey protein isolate. Check out his sports energy drink. Use the promo code SkyHighAndFly10, small letters and 10 at the end for a 10% discount on those products, any product at bradnutrition.com. And you can also get the same with Sky High Fly, and it's HI on both of those. So if you're not familiar with Sky High and Fly Jump Lab, that's where we got that. So Sky High Fly 10, and those are all caps for Amazon if you want the same 10% off. And other than that, we are going to be back soon. I am hoping that one of my contacts is going to get us the great Mutaz Barshim. And by one of my contacts, I mean Jeremy Fisher from the training center down in Chula Vista. So if we can get Mutaz on, you will know well about it, and we will look forward to that. Until then, God bless you. Have a great rest of your day. If you're listening to this podcast early in the day, if you're listening to it late at night, have a great rest of your night. And then, therefore, have a great week and month and year. And we will talk soon here on Raise the Bar with Troy Haynes. Until next time, so long.